Today's story begins in 1963, where we see Angie's mother sitting and waiting for her son to return home so she can serve him food. However, she is shocked when the one who enters the house is not her son, but a hungry little boy who hasn't eaten for a long time. Feeling pity for him, she gives him food and asks his name. He tells her his name is Kashtia. From that day on, she considers Kashtia her second son, and Angie treats him like a real brother. To support their mother, both boys start working for a dishonest man who refuses to pay them. When Angie asks for his wages, the man says he'll deduct it from the money Angie's mother owes him, since she bought her house on loan from him. Seeing this, the man's daughter secretly gives Angie money for his work and asks about Kashtia, clearly impressed by him. Days pass, and one day Angie hears the news of his mother's death. He rushes there and finds her lifeless, surrounded by people. Before they can even perform her last rites, the same dishonest man arrives and declares that since she died without repaying her debt, the house now belongs to him, forcing the boys to leave. Kashtia loses his temper and is about to attack him, but suddenly a wealthy man arrives, pays off the debt, and tells them the house is now theirs. Not wanting them to live alone without family, he takes both Angie and Kashtia in to live with him. A few days later, Kashtia plans to confess his love to Farla, but suddenly hears a car crash. He runs outside and finds the wealthy man injured in the car, holding a gun, while people chase him, trying to attack him. Kashtia takes the gun and stands in front of the crowd, confused and unsure what to do. The story then jumps 25 years ahead to 1988. By now, Kashtia has become unstoppable, with Angie always by his side. One day, they return to their village and learn that some goons have kidnapped one of their men. Kashtia personally goes to their hideout and brutally defeats all of them, warning them never to come near his village again before taking the kidnapped man back. Kashtia's reputation spreads across the region, impressing the wealthy man who raised them like a father. He decides to put Kashtia in charge of protecting the area, which makes his own son jealous, feeling that a stranger is being favored over him. Meanwhile, Angie, who is more carefree, learns that their friend was kidnapped because he fell in love with a girl from the rival group. Kashtia warns him to be careful next time, but the friend complains that Kashtia doesn't understand love. Angie defends him, saying that even though Kashtia looks tough on the outside, he once loved deeply. This takes us 10 years back, when Kashtia learns that Farla is returning to the village after studying abroad for 15 years. He expects her to run into his arms, but she doesn't even recognize him. The next day, during Angie's wedding, Kashtia keeps bothering him, asking if Farla still loves him. Eventually, Angie takes him to her house. When Farla sees Kashtia, she immediately shuts the door in his face, knowing his violent past. Everyone mocks Kashtia, as he had claimed she would never forget him. Determined to prove himself, Kashtia makes a bet that he can get her to ride his bicycle. No one believes him, so he creates a plan. He sends someone to tell Farla that her father is being attacked at a distant farm. As she rushes out, she finds Kashtia waiting with his bicycle. Pretending ignorance, he initially refuses to help her, but after some insistence, he finally agrees. On the way, he proudly shows off to his friends that he won the challenge. But when they reach the farm, Farla realizes it was all a setup. Surprisingly, instead of being angry, she's impressed, because now she knows Kashtia truly loves her. The next day, she tells him that if he wants to marry her, they need to spend time together first, so she asks him to take her to the cinema. At first, Kashtia hesitates because of his tough reputation, but eventually agrees, on the condition that they cover their faces so no one recognizes them. Inside the cinema, everything goes fine until romantic scenes appear, making Farla shy, so they leave early. From that moment, they grow closer and fall deeply in love. One day, Farla confesses that she has loved him since childhood and only returned to the village because of him. Kashtia is overjoyed, and they decide to get married. He takes her to her house to formally ask for her hand. But as soon as her grandfather, the wealthy man, sees him, he is shocked and refuses. Farla's father is furious that his daughter loves Kashtia and blames himself for bringing an orphan into the house. Hurt by these words, Farla decides to leave her home and run away with Kashtia. But her father threatens that if she steps out of the house, he will kill himself. And when he realizes she's truly determined to run away, he hangs himself and dies. This leaves Farla completely shattered. She doesn't know what to do anymore. If she goes to live with Kashtia now, it would feel like she's building her happiness over her father's dead body, a father who killed himself just to stop her from marrying him. The story then returns to the present, 1988. We see Rodrigo, a man furious because Kashtia humiliated his son and warned him never to show his face again. Rodrigo becomes furious and vows revenge, determined to teach Kashtia a lesson he will never forget. However, the village officer tells him to calm down and reminds him of what happened during last year's festival. That was the year Dasu, Farla's cousin, returned from Dubai. He visits a friend who complains that every girl he loves leaves him, including Farla, who now loves Kashtia. Enraged, Dasu kills him and decides to confront Kashtia himself. When Dasu returns home, he learns that Farla and Kashtia are practically married, even though they don't live together because of her father's death. This angers him, and he declares that since they aren't officially married, he can marry Farla himself. Dasu goes to her house and tries to force himself into her life, but Angie sees this and attacks him. However, Dasu's men surround Angie. Despite putting up a strong fight, Angie is eventually overpowered. Just before they can harm him, a little girl calls out Kashtia's name. Kashtia arrives, and everything changes. He calmly watches as Dasu's men try to attack him, but none of them can even get close. Then he steps in and brutally defeats all of them. Standing before Dasu, he says, "I'm sparing you only because of your father, not because you deserve it." Humiliated, Dasu swears that he will kill Kashtia at next year's festival. Kashtia warns him that this is the last time he will be forgiven. As the festival approaches, Dasu sends a coffin as a threat, warning Kashtia and Angie that their death is near. Angie is disturbed but doesn't tell Kashtia. Dasu even tries to hire killers, but everyone refuses once they hear Kashtia's name. No one dares to face him. Meanwhile, Angie and his friend Bhaskar visit Farla. She keeps asking about Kashtia, but when Bhaskar questions why she didn't just marry him, she becomes emotional and throws them out, reminded of her father's death. Later, Kashtia quietly watches Farla from a distance, trying to convince her to move on from her father's shadow, but she refuses. At the same time, Rodrero prepares for the festival and plans his daughter's marriage, but she confesses she loves someone else, Bhaskar. Furious that she loves an outsider and an ally of Kashtia, Rodrero attacks the village. Kashtia pretends to negotiate, while Bhaskar secretly escapes and marries his lover elsewhere. This enrages Rodrero even more, and he vows destruction. Dasu then teams up with Rodrero to eliminate Kashtia and Angie. They set a trap at a cinema, knowing Angie will be there. When Angie realizes he's surrounded, he tells Bhaskar to escape and inform Kashtia. Angie tries to run, but is eventually cornered by Dasu, who stabs him brutally. Dasu pretends to spare him, but kills him anyway. Kashtia arrives too late and rushes Angie to the hospital, but on the way, Angie makes one final request, that Kashtia marry Farla and forget the past. Moments later, Angie dies. Kashtia is devastated. After performing his brother's last rites, he makes only one decision, to take revenge on everyone responsible. Farla visits him and says, "Take your revenge, but stay alive." As Kashtia prepares for war, the wealthy man warns everyone involved in Angie's death to flee if they want to survive. Meanwhile, Farla bribes the authorities so no case is filed against Kashtia. Then comes the final showdown. Kashtia storms in and destroys everyone in his path. Armed or unarmed, it doesn't matter. Anyone who faces him falls. Realizing they can't defeat him, Dasu kidnaps Bhaskar to distract him. This gives Rodrero's men a chance to throw spices into Kashtia's eyes, blinding him. Taking advantage, Dasu stabs him repeatedly and leaves him for dead. Everyone believes Kashtia is finished, but he rises again. Driven by rage, he returns, defeats Dasu, and avenges Angie. At first, he considers sparing him, but then changes his mind and kills him. After everything, Kashtia meets the wealthy man and apologizes, but the man, heartbroken over his son's death, turns away from him. Finally, Farla comes to Kashtia and agrees to marry him. And with that, the story comes to an end. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more recaps. See you in the next video.